I took the position of my position. Cam is my partner. I'm not his artist. I was the CEO of Diplomats. I made Diplomats with him. I was with him for every bit of his journey. I never get my credit for a bunch of I do in this industry. When they say Love Hop, they supposed to say, man, the creator and founder, Jim Jones. Hey, I made that name Love and Hip Hop. That's my name. They didn't make that name.
I didn't know that.
Huh?
Me, Jim Jones, myself. Gold records, platinum records, gold albums, platinum albums. No, me, Jim Jones. No Diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. So let's not get into that where we get into numbers and I gotta show you the statistics of what I've done. You heard to what other people was done. You heard, and if you wanna go to the Billboard entries, pull up Nas Billboard entries, then pull up my Billboard entries.
This is Jim Jones, and depending on which interview you catch, he's painted as a man of many accomplishments. He said he was the brains behind love and hip-hop, claimed he's a better rapper with a stronger catalog than his peers, and positioned himself as either the muscle, the mastermind, or the one who showed everyone else how to move.
What I did for Nas probably never been done for him in his life. He's never been that viral at all, ever. Ever. He's never been talked about like this ever in his life. I ain't got 100 on me now. I got like 40, 50 on me.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's right. You can come get this right now. Right now. Any one of you. Right now. And it ain't a money thing, but this is here. You heard? If you want to get busy, is the money on the line? Any one of y'all from my era.
But according to people who came up with him, the image Jim's been selling doesn't quite match the reality. Industry insiders and peers from his own circle have been pushing back on the narratives he's built, calling out the caps he's been running with for nearly 20 years. Let's get into it. Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin have been running with the same story for years, that Love and Hip Hop was Jim's idea, his creation, his brainchild. According to them, the whole show was supposed to be centered around Jim and Chrissy's relationship, and Jim himself has even said he was the one who came up with the concept.
I never get my credit for a bunch of I do in this industry. When they say Love Hop, they supposed to say, man, the creator and founder, Jim Jones. Hey, I made that name Love and Hip Hop. That's my name. They didn't make that name.
I didn't know that.
Huh?
But if you look past his version and into the actual industry record, the reality is totally different. Mona Scott Young is the one credited as the creator and executive producer, not Jim. Her name is on all the official paperwork, trade publications, and credits. Jim and Chrissy were just cast members. Maybe he tossed out an idea or two, but fans are saying there's a big difference between casually pitching something and building one of the most successful reality TV franchises of the 2010s. Claiming you created Love and Hip Hop when your name doesn't appear anywhere on the credits is not just stretching the truth, that's pure delusion. And it doesn't stop there. Jim has also built this image of being a Harlem native through and through, but that story starts falling apart the second Cam'ron speaks on it. Jim and Cam's relationship has been rocky for years. Makeups, fallouts, reconciliations, and then another blow-up. One of the big sparks for their beef was Jim claiming he made Dipset, which Cam wasn't having. That led Cam to start pulling back the curtain on Jim's history, and a lot of what he revealed pokes holes in the Harlem story Jim likes to tell. Cam flat out said Jim wasn't really from Harlem like that. He was from the Bronx. The only Harlem connection he had was through his grandmother, who lived there. So yeah, Jim would come around sometimes, but Cam made it clear they didn't grow up together. All those stories Jim tells about being part of the Harlem upbringing with Cam, according to Cam, none of that is true.
You are a guardian angel and designer. What the f is you talking about, man? You are from the Bronx, bro. You are not from Harlem. Why do you keep thinking that you are from Harlem, bro? You are not from Harlem. I did not grow up with you, man. I did not grow up with you.
Cam also explained how Jim even got close to the crew in the first place. At the time, Cam, Mace, Big L, Bloodshed, and Herb McGruff were already buzzing heavy in the streets. Everyone knew they were on the verge of a record deal, and their freestyles had the city talking. Jim heard those freestyles and wanted to be down. After his grandmother passed, he started opening up his spot to them, offering his house as a hangout. For Cam and the crew, it felt kind of random at first. They didn't necessarily need a spot to crash at, but Jim kept extending the invite, showing love, so eventually they'd pull up here and there.
You heard our freestyles, and you came up to me one day when I was chilling in front of the house. You said, and this word to my dead mother, yo, man, I heard the freestyles, y'all killing. Yo, you know my grandmother died. If y'all wanna come by and just hang out, y'all, all right, Joe Mo, thanks. It didn't really make sense at the time because we like, yo, man, what is Joe Mo inviting us to his house for? Even though he cool. but it didn't make sense to be going to Jomo house.
Cam admitted that sometimes they'd use Jim's crib just to chill, bring some girls over, or kick it since the place was free. But he was clear about one thing: he never needed Jim's spot like that. To him, Jim wasn't really a part of their circle. He was more like a fan hanging around the edges, begging to be included.
You act like on your couch. You was a fan. You begged us. You are a fan. A fan. We didn't grow up with you. I don't see you around none of this. You're not from none of that. You ever see somebody from Harlem try to act like they from Harlem so bad that you got to keep saying, I'm from Harlem? Who's from Harlem know who's from Harlem. You don't have to keep saying you from Harlem.
And if that wasn't enough, Cam also reminded folks that it was actually Mace who taught Jim how to rap. Jim didn't come up rapping with them. He latched on after the fact when things were already moving. He wasn't organically a part of Harlem's rap nucleus, he just slid in when the opportunity presented itself. To top it off, Jim apparently even tried to flex his finances with Cam at one point, but it backfired and left him embarrassed again. Now, Jim Jones's latest wild claim came when he suggested he's actually a better rapper than Nas. He went on record saying he could rap circles around anybody from his era, and even went as far as challenging hip-hop legends to meet him in the booth.
What I did for Nas probably never been done for him in his life. He's never been that viral at all, ever. Ever. He's never been talked about like this ever in his life. I got 100 on me now. I got like 40, 50 on me.
Yeah, that's strong.
That's right. I'm gonna get this right now. Right now. Anyone who right now. And it ain't a money thing, but this is here. You heard? If you want to get busy, is the money on the line. Any one of y'all from my era.
Now, hip-hop has always thrived on competition, so the idea of calling people out isn't new. But the issue here is respect and reality. We're not talking about just any rapper. This is Nas. The same Nas who won a Grammy in 2021, who was honored at the 2024 Grandmaster Awards, and who's widely considered one of the greatest lyricists to ever touch a microphone. The backlash was immediate, and soon after, Jim tried to soften his stance. He backtracked a little, saying he wasn't just talking about lyrical skill, but that he's a marketing genius. So now he's playing two different lanes. Is he really challenging legends to battle in the booth? Or is he just saying outrageous things for clout to keep his name buzzing? Jim didn't stop there though. He also claimed he had more Billboard entries than Nas.
Me, Jim Jones, myself. Gold records, platinum records, gold albums, platinum albums. No, me, Jim Jones. No diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. So let's not get into that where we get into numbers and I gotta show you the statistics of what I've done. You heard to what other people was done. You heard, and if you want to go to the Billboard entries, pull up Nas Billboard entries, then pull up my Billboard entries.
But once people fact-checked that statement, the truth came out quick. Jim Jones has 9 total entries on the Billboard 200, with 3 of those albums cracking the top 10, but not a single #1. Meanwhile, Nas has 27 Billboard 200 entries, 16 top 10 albums, and 6 #1s. The numbers don't lie, and the gap between them is massive. To make matters worse, people decided to test Jim's claims in the streets. Residents in Harlem were asked a simple question: who's the better rapper, Nas or Jim Jones? The results were embarrassing. Every single person picked Nas. Some didn't just pick Nas, they literally laughed at the idea that the two could even be compared.
Nas or Jim Jones? Nas.
Nas or Jim Jones? Nas.
Nas or Jim Jones?
Nas.
All right. Nas or Jim Jones?
Is that a serious question?
Yes, it is.
Nas, bro. Jim Jones the clown.
Math Hoffa did something similar on his platform, asking the same question, and the outcome was just as brutal for Jim. Once again, Nas was the unanimous choice.
Nas or Jim Jones?
Nas.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of Nas. I don't know what kind of question that is. Yeah, Nas.
Okay, all right, listen,
Hey, you gotta switch something up, big dog. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Nas, come on. This is Nas, my.
Nas. What? Is that even a question?
And then there's the whole Jay-Z situation. For years, Jim tried to downplay any tension with Hov. Around 2016, he was publicly saying everything was cool, that he and Roc Nation had no issues. But later interviews revealed that wasn't the case at all. Jim admitted that he actually felt hurt about being excluded from Roc Nation opportunities and big business deals. He basically went from pretending Jay was his homie to admitting he felt snubbed and overlooked.
Certain people shouldn't be able to say your name. names until they done something in the genre of music. I've done too much in this music to even have to answer that question. Like Jim Jones, who is Jim Jones? Like, he's not on anyone's top 10 list. He's like no one's top 10 list, maybe not even his family. He has no hardware on his wall, no classic album. So from a creative standpoint and the economic standpoint, he doesn't even register. So why do I have to answer that question, you know?
Even Jay-Z himself dragged him. The switch up was so obvious that hip-hop blogs and fans started pointing out how much he was flip-flopping. On top of that, the way Jim told the story kept shifting, like his memory of those years wasn't even consistent. Then there's the whole gang image Jim Jones has been running with for years. He's long portrayed himself as a high-ranking blood, calling himself a general, claiming he gave orders and moved like someone at the very top of the set. But when the 6ix9ine federal case went down and the 9-tray wiretaps hit the public, things got real interesting. Jim's name popped up on those tapes. He was literally caught on audio discussing gang business. Yet somehow, when indictments started raining down on everybody else, Jim's name was nowhere to be found. No charges, no arrest, nothing. That disconnect didn't go unnoticed. Legal experts, hip-hop commentators, and even defense attorneys started pointing out how strange it was. If Jim was really the general he claimed to be, the one giving orders, how is it that everyone else went down but him? If the feds had enough to put 9-tray leaders away for decades, why did Jim walk away untouched? A lot of people felt like there had to be a reason he wasn't sitting in prison right now, and that reason didn't line up with the image he was selling. And it wasn't just New York where Jim tried to flex that gang credibility. He also claimed he had full acceptance in LA gang territories. But Wack 100, who has never been shy about putting people on blast, came out and said the truth was a lot different. According to Wack, Jim didn't get respect in LA. He paid for it. He allegedly offered Wack money for a pass in Compton so he could move around safely. And right after that,
I don't know why people think they city make them. Like, you don't know how much of a clown you look like in 2025 running back for a Compton stamp. He said, I'm gonna go over here and pay these, go to the park. I'm not from Compton. I'm like, bro, I'm not from Compton. I don't give a what park you go to in Compton.
Jim was on Instagram posting clips of himself hanging out in Compton parks, flexing like he was good everywhere. To people who knew the real story, those videos looked more like staged performances than authentic respect. Even Face on Love weighed in on the situation, clowning Jim by saying the closest he'd ever been to a real blood set was watching the movie Colors.
He ain't never been on no blood set. The closest thing he been to a blood set is Colors. He ain't been on Piru Street in Compton. He ain't been to Emerald Hills, Bunny Boys. He ain't been to Lincoln Park. He ain't been to none of them places and put in some work.
And then you've got his athlete claims, which might honestly be just as ridiculous. Jim loves to post gym videos, especially clips of him shadowboxing. The idea is clearly to present himself as some kind of fighter, but the internet had other plans. Instead of being impressed, Twitter roasted him. His form, his footwork, his weak-looking punches, it all turned into a meme. Reaction videos popped up left and right, people breaking down his stance, joking about his noodle arms and skinny legs. Even other rappers started mocking his boxing skills. What Jim meant to be a flex ended up being another running joke attached to his name. But beyond the false claims and exaggerated flexes, Jim's career has also been filled with feuds that almost always blow up in his face. His beefs aren't legendary rap battles. They're more like embarrassing chapters he probably wishes people would forget. Take his situation with Raw Diggs, for example. Now, Raw Diggs was no internet gangster. He was the real deal, with a street resume that read like something out of a crime documentary. We're talking drug armed robberies and a laundry list of bodies tied to his name. His reputation was so heavy that when the feds finally got him, they didn't take chances. He was sentenced to 3 life sentences plus an extra 105 years, just to make sure he'd never see freedom again.
Raw Diggs got 3 life sentences. You heard about this?
I actually seen it on, I think it was on your website yesterday, and I was like, and I feel bad.
So when Jim Jones crossed paths with someone like Raw Diggs, it wasn't a wise move. At that time, Raw was trying to pivot into music. He was recording tracks, working with artists like Shooter 93, and building some buzz in the hip-hop scene. One day, he ended up in the same studio where Jim was recording, and this is where the clash started. Jim Jones has always had a rule when it comes to his sessions. No street talk in the studio. He keeps his music and his street life separate, and he expects everyone else to do the same. Apparently, the whole drama started in the studio. Raw was in there talking heavy, bringing up old blood politics, gang history, and other street-related stuff. To most people in the room, it was just regular tough talk, but Jim wasn't having it. Witnesses say Jim snapped at Raw, telling him, "Man, get the F out of here with that blood-ish." At first, Raw was thrown off. This was Raw Diggs, a guy who was known for being knee-deep in the streets, a guy people feared. He couldn't believe someone like Jim would talk to him like that, so he checked him, asking if he really meant what he said, and Jim doubled down. He repeated himself, basically dismissing Raw right there in front of everybody. That's when things got heated. Words flew back and forth, the tension skyrocketed, and you could feel the room shift. Raw was furious. People who were there said it felt like the air got sucked out of the place. Everyone knew this could go from words to something deadly in seconds. Luckily, cooler heads stepped in. Some of the other guys in the studio jumped between them and managed to de-escalate before it got physical. But Raw wasn't about to just swallow his pride and leave quietly. On his way out, he let his anger speak. He smashed one of the studio's glass doors and stormed off. Now, you'd think that would be the end of it. But later that same night, Jim had a show booked at So's Rendezvous, a well-known club spot. Things started off normal. Crowd was live. The music was pumping. Jim was doing his thing on stage. Then Raw Diggs showed up. He didn't come alone either. He rolled in with a couple of his guys, making his presence known. As soon as he walked through the doors, the DJ grabbed the mic and gave him a shout out like he was royalty. Raw Diggs in the building. That's when everything shifted again. Witnesses say Jim's face told the whole story. One second he was comfortable, the next he looked like he'd just seen a ghost. Whatever confidence he had evaporated right there. He didn't wait around to see what Raw was planning or if things were about to pop off. He dipped, left the club quick. Luckily for Jim, nothing went down right then and there. But behind the scenes, things were a lot more dangerous than they looked. Word is, one of Raw's guys was literally waiting for a signal from Raw to take things to the next level. If Raw had given the green light, that night could have ended very differently for Jim Jones. But Raw didn't give the order. He let Jim walk away, and for someone like Raw Diggs, that was shocking. This was a man with a reputation for never letting disrespect slide, a man who was feared because he always responded to situations like that with violence. So why let Jim off the hook? People who know the story have their theories. Some say after that studio incident, Jim finally found out who he was really dealing with. Maybe somebody pulled him aside and explained Raw's resume. If Jim didn't know before, he definitely learned after. And then we get to Max B. Out of all the conflicts Jim Jones has had in his career, the one with Max might just be the ugliest and most bitter. What makes it hit harder is the fact that they actually used to be close. Max wasn't just some rapper in Jim's circle. He was his ghostwriter, his right hand in the studio, and a member of Jim's Bird Gang crew. For a while, they moved like family, but when things went left, they went all the way left. The real fallout started when Max got hit with those serious charges. A murder case that would eventually have him serving a long prison sentence. From Max's perspective, Jim completely abandoned him during that time. He felt like Jim turned his back on him when he needed him most, and that's when the loyalty broke. What had been a solid working relationship spiraled into one of the most hostile beefs in New York rap.
So Max B, now you, my friend, you had a falling out with Jim Jones, right?
Yeah, we had our mutual differences.
As far as that paperwork goes,
we don't do paperwork no more. There's no such thing as paperwork. Max, never have another project. There's no negotiation. I don't want to be friends. I don't care about no negotiation because I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Max didn't just keep it on wax either. He went straight for Jim's neck. He dropped a mixtape with a cover that showed tombstones. One of them read, "Here lies Millie Jim Jones." Then he dropped the infamous diss record She Touched It in Miami, where he claimed he slept with Jim's longtime partner, Chrissy Lampkin. That song alone set the streets buzzing, because it was one thing to take shots at Jim musically, but dragging Chrissy into it made it personal in a way that was hard to ignore. From there, things got physical. According to Max, one night he spotted Jim in the streets, and Jim tried to box his car in, like he was setting him up for a confrontation, but Max wasn't about to be cornered. He claimed he rammed Jim's Bentley to get out of the trap, and in the middle of it all, he punched Jim right in the face. Even while serving a lengthy prison sentence, Max never let the grudge consume him completely. Over time, he hinted that he was willing to let it go, saying he'd be down to squash the beef when the opportunity came. But Jim's approach has always been to downplay the situation, almost like it never even mattered. In interviews, he sometimes pretends not to remember Max's name, brushing off questions like Max was just a footnote in his career. Still, the truth eventually came out. In a recent interview, Jim finally admitted that he did Max dirty. And then you've got 50 Cent. Now, 50's name is tied to almost every rap beef you can think of, but when it comes to Jim Jones, their history goes all the way back to 2007. At the time, Dipset was already in a weird place. Cameron and Jim were having their issues. The movement wasn't as unified as it once was, and 50, being the master instigator he is, saw the perfect opportunity. He invited Jim to come perform at one of his shows, right in the middle of all that drama. It wasn't some friendly gesture either. Years later, 50 admitted it was a strategic move. He wanted to stir the pot, play on Dipset's fractures, and basically laugh at the fact that Jim had finally scored a hit record.
Jimmy was not a rapper then.
Right.
He was your man, like on the side, like in the side, just he was not a rapper at all.
Right.
So when Ballin' took place, and I'm looking and I'm going, oh, he having a moment. And I just looked and I knew I just took the shot, Murder, to see, because I wasn't sure he was gonna go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, we like Jimmy better than you anyway, Cam. Then you gotta watch and see how he responds. And then when you see, he like, oh, you really like that. Give me this, give me Jimmy.
Jim fired back during an interview with Justin LeBoy, calling both 50 and Cam out, trying to flip the situation back in his favor.
Both of them. Pause though, get off my There's only space on there for baby girl, man.
But of course, 50 wasn't about to let it die there. He escalated things in typical 50 Cent fashion, taking it beyond music. When 6ix9ine's trial was going on, 50 pulled up court transcripts where Jim's name popped up as individual one. He implied that Jim was playing both sides, maybe even cooperate, planting seeds of doubt about Jim's street credibility. That move had people looking at Jim sideways, because the last thing you want tied to your name in this culture is the label of being an informant, and he also kept clowning Jones.
Yeah, I just seen the Breakfast Club. Jimmy popping all that bullshit. I be seeing Jimmy talking about we Gucci boo boo. He in the Gucci store talking about we Gucci boo boo. Like King was going, they was going you up. Jimmy, they was like, Marita Monero, Coca-Cola, Pedro.
It'd be money in case they wanted to know. Tell them we Gucci. we Gucci, boo-boo.
When the conversation later came up about possibly doing a Versus battle with 50, Jim shut it down immediately. His response was blunt: "I don't want to do nothing with that sucker." And then there's Tru Life. And the beef between the two was way more serious. It had real street consequences. This wasn't just rap posturing. This was physical, dangerous, and one of the darkest chapters in Jim's career. In the beginning, Jim and Tru Life weren't even enemies. In fact, they were cool. Tru Life, along with Jojo Capone, was providing protection for Jim and Dipset when things got heated in New York. They were holding it down in situations where real violence could have gone down. But over time, Tru Life and Jojo started to feel like they weren't being properly compensated for putting their necks on the line. They were risking it all, and in their eyes, Jim wasn't showing enough respect in return. That tension eventually exploded. Tru Life snatched Jim's Bird Gang chain, and instead of just keeping it low-key, he went full-on disrespectful with it. He flaunted the chain in interviews, showing it off like a trophy, humiliating Jim in public.
Jimmy Neutron, you try to say this piece don't exist? There's only one who do this. Step the diamond game up, man. You're not balling. It look better on cameras. I'm seeing it right there. Look, put the game. It look better on camera. Garbage.
In the street world, that kind of move is devastating. It wasn't just about jewelry, it was about pride, power, and credibility. Watching Tru Life parade around with his chain was a huge blow to Jim's image. especially when his reputation was already shaky. Jim tried to get control of the narrative by going on Hot 97 and telling his version of events, but that only made things worse. Tru Life felt disrespected by the way Jim was talking, and the beef deepened. From there, it was bad blood that could have easily led to something catastrophic. The only reason it ever cooled off was because Tru Life ended up getting locked up on an unrelated case. Prison paused the situation, but the memory of it never really disappeared. To this day, Jim doesn't bring it up much, probably because it's one of those L's that doesn't wash off no matter how much time passes. And when you look at the bigger picture, Jim Jones has taken a lot of hits like this over the years. Between the public fallouts, the lies people keep catching him in, and the endless drama surrounding his name, the industry has kind of turned him into a running joke. Instead of people respecting him as a legend, more and more folks just clown him for the chaos that seems to follow him everywhere he goes.